Hello, everyone. Christina Werner here. Welcome to another video. Thanks for joining me. In Simon Says Stamp's latest release that just went live, there's a lot of holiday product. There's just a few things that are more autumn themed. So I thought I would show you a couple cards made using these three products that I designed for the release. I am holding myself back from starting on all the holiday cards with the holiday products that were released, but don't you worry, I will get to it very soon. So I'm starting out with the Let the Gourd Times Roll stamp set, and I've got a card base in my MISTI. It's already cut and folded, and I'm using a grid transparency sheet to aid me in positioning these stamps just right. Once you have them on that grid sheet, you can kind of move them around and then swing the door of your MISTI down and it picks up those stamps and the grid sheet. And all you have to do is peel off the grid sheet and then stamp per usual. So I'm using Versafine Onyx Black ink. This first card, I'm doing two cards today, and both of them are very simple and quick. So I wanted to do both in one video. You guys know me. I am usually not one to do multiple cards in a video, but these are so easy and quick. I thought I would show you a couple different ideas. So I stamped the whole row of pumpkins and different squashes and gourds and the grading, and I stamped it twice because I wanted to have a really, really dark line on all of the images and also the type on the grading. After everything was stamped, I'm going to go right into ink blending. Now, in hindsight, I think I probably should have waited a little bit because I think the ink was just a little bit wet. You'll see when I start ink blending that some of the ink I put on top it doesn't smear the ink lines, it just sort of blooms them a little bit. They're not quite as sharp. And I think that's because my black ink wasn't entirely dry because I did stamp it twice. So there was some thick ink on there. But all in all, it didn't change the look of it too much and I continued on. You can kind of just see how it softens the lines a little bit. So I'm using 4 colors of Simon ink today. I've got Mandarin, which is the orange shade, Sunbeam, which is this yellow, and I'm going to use it in a couple different spots. And then I'm going to use the color Merlot, which, news flash, this is like my favorite color now. I don't think I'd ever used it until now, and it's been out for quite some time. But I think I'm going to be using it a lot for my autumn and fall cards and heading into the holidays because that Merlot color is beautiful. And the brown is dark chocolate. So that's the first card. How easy was that? We're under 3 minutes into the video and a good portion of that was just showing the products. That's how quick this card works up. Onto my second card, I'm using the Pumpkins Stencil, and I'm going to be doing more ink blending right over the top with those same colors because they're just gorgeous. In fact, I think I'm only using 3 colors. I will not be using the dark chocolate on this one. So I've got my card base here. I put the stencil on the front and turned it over. And then I'm taping the stencil to the cardstock from the back. This makes it so that I can ink blend and use the stencil from edge to edge, and I don't have to worry about any tape getting in the way. So I'm starting out with the Sunbeam color right in the center. And you'll notice I've switched to slightly larger ink blending brushes. Those first ones were the small blending brushes from Simon. They have a really, really small head, and that was perfect for blending each, individual pumpkin or squash. But on this card, where I'm going to be blending large areas, like this very large yellow area in the center, I switched to a larger brush. And for me, I have some honeybee blending brushes that I've designated for dye inks, so those are the ones I'm using. Going around with the orange color, which is Mandarin, and kind of just blending into that center area. I want a lot of orange on the edges. I'm trying to not lose the yellow too much. I've just learned that when it comes to ink blending or painting or coloring, somehow the yellows just get overrun. So if you're going to do something similar to this, make sure you start with the yellow and make the yellow a really large area. Blend it way past what you think it'll end up being because those other colors will start to kind of take over the yellow, which is absolutely true. That's what happened with mine. So here's that Merlot color. Isn't that gorgeous? Now you know why I'm obsessed with this color now, because it is the most perfect burgundy dark raspberry red. It's beautiful. So after I had my basic blending done, I went ahead and peeled up this stencil, and you can see those stark white lines. I thought there was just a little too much contrast going on. So with whatever ink was remaining on the blender brushes, I went over the areas again. So it's just going to soften the white lines a little bit and make it look a little bit more cohesive. So I did bring in a little bit of that mandarin. I add a little more from the ink pad just because I didn't have much left on the brush. And then I'm going to finish off with the yellow, the sunbeam color right there in the center. And that's going to just walk back that really, really bright white that was right in the center. The lines still read like a light color, but it's definitely more tone on tone now. So here's the background of my card. I really love how this turned out. I'm now going to take some cardstock. This is ground coffee cardstock from Lawn Fawn. I was looking for a particular shade of brown. You can see over on the side that I actually cut this die out of a different color of brown cardstock, decided I didn't like that quite that dark, and went to this color from Lawn Fawn. So because this is a brand new die and I wasn't sure on this cardstock, sometimes you get kind of little hairs on the edges of your die cut. I'm sure if you're a die cutter, you have experienced this. Well, here's a little tip for you. And let me preface this by saying I have no idea if this always works. I just thought, I'm scraping all these little hairs off the edges of this die cut. I wonder if an adhesive eraser would rub enough of it off that it would be easier. And you know what? It turned out to kind of work. I don't know that I've seen this done anywhere else. I think you could also use a regular eraser. You just want something that's going to rub up against the edges of the die cut, and it really just gets rid of all those little tiny hairs that are kind of hanging on from when you die cut it. I don't know if that's a real tip or not, but take it for what it is. So I wanted to have a white outline around this die cut so that it would really stand out on my background. This is why I adhered it to the white cardstock in the first place. And then I just went around and did some fussy cutting to get kind of like that shadow shape around the die cut. Put some foam adhesive behind the die cut, and then using tweezers just held it right over the card and then eventually pressed it down onto the card. I wanted a little bit of shimmer on the grading, so I grabbed my Spectrum Noir shimmer pen, or I think it's a sparkle pen, and this is the color Clear, and I just added all of that sparkle over all of the brown. Now, I could just not keep it at just that. I decided I had to be extra when it comes to this greeting. So then I grabbed some Ranger Glossy Accents and I started to apply it to all of the letters. Now, this was a labor of love, but I knew it would look awesome. So I wanted to show you guys how it works. And you have to go fairly slowly so you don't get too many bubbles. But if you do get a bubble while you're applying your glossy accents, use a needle or a craft pick. You can see me here trying to battle this bubble. You can kind of move it to the edge of your glossy accents and kind of run it off the edge, and that will generally pop the bubble right here. Here's where it's going to pop. There we go. And then I went ahead and kept applying. Now, if you have areas that sort of run off the edge, it's super easy to clean that up. Just use some tweezers or that same craft pick, some edges of scissors, something. You can just rub it right along that edge and it kind of scrapes away any of the glossy accents that might be sticking around. So at this point, I don't know why, I decided I wanted a secondary grading. And because I was waiting for the glossy accents to dry, but I wanted to continue working, I knew I would have to stamp the greeting on my own on a block. This is a little scary over a card that's practically finished, but I really wanted that greeting right below that die cut. So I did stamp the You're the Best from the Let the Gourd Times Roll stamp set in that dark chocolate. And through the magic of video editing, we have our glossy accents completely dry now. It's gorgeous. The gloss on that is so pretty. Look at this up close. You're going to see a little bit of that shimmer from the sparkle pen and then the glossy texture from the glossy accents. Turned out beautiful. So those are my 2 cards today using supplies from the brand new release from Simon Says Stamp. Go ahead and check those supplies out down in the video description. You can click over. And of course, I'll have a link to the entire release if you want to get into all those holiday products. I've got 2 more snowflake sets this year. One's actually a set of 3 snowflakes, and there's a single snowflake. I've got a snowflake stamp set. There's a bunch of awesome holiday products in this release. Check it out. I'm going to be using a ton of it in my holiday card series, which starts in just a couple weeks. It's starting a little bit before Halloween. So hang in there, guys. Holiday cards are coming. Thanks for watching.